Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Unfounded podcast. My name is Christopher Turner, and I am your host. Thank you for joining me here again. For those of you that joined me in last episode, apologies for the technical difficulties on the video aspect of it, at least. I think maybe one person saw the the YouTube live stream. It did go up on YouTube, but Facebook didn't work for some reason. So anyway, this time you're going to get a video on Spotify because I'm going to record it, but I'm not going to live stream it this time. I'm trying to do one thing at a time so I don't bite off more than I can chew and have a bunch of technical difficulties like I did last time. So let's hope that doesn't happen again. And anyway, welcome back. I'm really excited to have the video aspect of the podcast here. And we're going to be focusing on some interesting topics today. One of them being creativity, self-expression, things that I've been getting. I was kind of doing a very brief meditation before I came on here, kind of checking in, seeing what we all need to hear. And that was the biggest thing that came through, was that creativity, self-expression, kind of in that last episode, the energy of summer and bringing your projects into fruition, right? Bringing it out into the light of day. All of these things are being very important right now. So I can still feel that energy, excuse me, around us. So that being said, I do kind of want to roll right into it. As you can see behind me now, or you should actually be able to see behind me now, I have a bunch of my like tarot cards and things like that, little spiritual things, trinkets and stuff that I use here. Today I'm gonna go a little bit off the book, literally, and not do a Buddha saying. So I'm gonna do a quote from one of my favorite artists, and we'll go from there because I think it's going to be more of an artistic show today. I hope to show you guys a couple things that I've made here, if we have time, maybe, or maybe even play a little bit. You can see kind of behind me there, boom, right there, right next to the trash can. Probably should have moved that. Anyway, right next to the trash can, you can see there's a piano there, and I have a couple songs that I might show you that I've worked on, for a very long time and a couple other ones that I've just been messing around with, but we'll see if we have time. Point being, kind of trying to demonstrate the creativity and self-expression I'm talking about in the episode for you. So let's get right into it. I kind of want to set the tone, like I said today, with a quote instead of just a page from the Buddha book. We can probably still do it if I feel drawn to it, but let's go to the quote first. And also I have one of the reasons that you didn't see the video episode on Spotify is because I didn't have a lot of things set up right. So the video just didn't come out right. We'll just leave it there. Let's not waste any time on it, I guess. So here's a quote I have for you today. It's by Salvador Dali, actually. Many of you are already probably familiar with him. He's a very popular artist. Kind of a very controversial artist too. He had a very controversial life. He was very outspoken, very kind of, what's the right word? I don't know. He was a unique person. He was an individual. If we're speaking about individuals, he was definitely an individual. So Salvador Dali has a very unique perspective that I've a couple different times throughout the podcast found his quotes to be really kind of eye-opening and kind of entrances into into Wonderland, kind of. So if you're interested about going down the rabbit hole, look into Salvador Dali and some of his paintings, and we can do a little bit of that here today too. I'll look some up after we do the quote here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Salvador Dali. This is a quote by Salvador Dali, and I thought this was really interesting. This is one that just popped out to me. It goes, "What is a television apparatus to man, who has only to shut his eyes to see the most inaccessible regions of the seen and the never seen? Who has only to imagine in order to pierce through walls and cause all the planetary Bagdads of his dreams to rise from the dust?" So he's a poet too, right? Like, obviously, the way he puts words together is very beautiful, is similar to the way he paints. But in this quote, I find he's kind of, again, he's peering deeply into the human psyche, and he's describing something similar to what he does in paintings, but he's using words this time. And what is a television apparatus to man, right? What is television but kind of a visualization machine, right? And he's kind of saying similar to similar thing to what I was saying last week, just focusing on a different form of technology, one that was more relevant to his time. TV was just coming around when Salvador Dali was in the prime of his life. And so television was an apparatus, right, to kind of, I don't know what's the right word, peer into the human psyche, similar to the way that the internet has done for us in the 21st century. And I think that what Salvador Dali's trying to describe there is that we already have kind of the capability of seeing far off lands and worlds and crazy technologies and magic and everything your heart can desire right here. It's built into us. We're hyper creative beings, and you only have to look at one of Salvador Dali's paintings to really see that. We can do that here real quick, and I'll see if I can pull something up for you. But Salvador Dali, we'll pull up just like a Google search of him. And for those of you that are listening, again, I'd recommend downloading Spotify. You can watch the video version of the podcast there, but I'll do my best to describe it to you as well. This is one that I've described before, this painting right here. It's very interesting. It's one of my favorites by him. I don't remember what it's called exactly, but it's a painting of kind of like this weird landscape, this odd like dystopian landscape with just really out of place looking objects. Each object in a Salvador Dali painting you have to like stare at for a second and contemplate why it is the way it is, or what it is to begin with. Period. There's this. I mean, it's really, really abstract in certain ways, and very, very it feels like you're on a DMT trip looking at one of his paintings, right? And I think what he's saying in this quote that we had here is that this kind of creativity came from his head. This guy's head right here. Look at that picture. Look at him. Look at his eyes. For those of you that are listening, there's this picture of Salvador Dali with this really, really crazy, like maniacal mustache and look on his face. And a person that you could, it's one of those pictures where you would immediately recognize it as only him. You can't confuse him as anybody else. That uniqueness is like hyper attractive. It's what makes people famous in a way. It's what makes people influential. Is their individuality, the unique perspective. And Salvador Dali has a very hyper unique perspective, and it's through his creativity that he's developed this hyper unique perspective, this individuality that kind of people fall in love with. And that's, you can see why when you look at these paintings here, right? We could spend all day trying to pull it apart. That's not really the point, even though it's enjoyable. The point is kind of to tap into the abilities you have internally. You have kind of this, I don't know what the best way to describe it would be, like, you have a television, you have the internet in your head, right? You have the ability to tap into all of this ancient knowledge. You have the ability to kind of imagine anything you can think of. I mean, just sit there and think of that for a second. You don't have to... you don't need a television to show you, like I said, some kind of crazy concept or some crazy idea. You can visualize it. You can see it in your head if you want to. Maybe you're not as visual of a person, then I would, you can, but you can develop it. You can. I think it's a development of what we'd call the third eye, or seeing, kind of the higher realms. It's a similar type of sight that you experience when you're asleep. You know what I mean? You're still seeing there, but you're not looking through your eyes, right? So it's that kind of feeling of seeing. But there's this imagination and this kind of sight that comes through the development of creativity, and it's attached to the psychic gifts, right? It's attached to the human intranet, And I think that's why creativity is important to talk about. I don't want to ignore the tarot today. I do want to do at least a couple card pulls in the tarot, maybe even one from the Buddha book as well. I'm feeling drawn to it right away, so I'm going to do a intuitive pull real quick here, guys, for the Buddha book real quick. Okay, well, that was very quick. We pulled up page 286. For those of you that are watching, I'm going to try to show you this again. Here we go, page 286, and I hope it's probably going to be reversed on the camera, so that's going to make it a little confusing, so probably that's fairly useless. All right, so we'll go ahead and just read it to you. On page 286, we have, there are 4 bases of sympathy. What for? Charity, kind speech, doing good, and treating all alike. It says, there are 4 bases of sympathy. What for, you ask? Charity, kind speech, doing good, and treating all alike. It's on page 286. So that's an interesting one. I don't really necessarily see a direct correlation to the creativity we're speaking of, but I bet you we could find one if we try to pull it apart here. There's a connection, right? Sympathy is connection in a certain way. When you show sympathy for somebody, you're showing them love, right? And love is a certain type of divine expression. People demonstrate love through creativity all the time, so there is a connection there. It's just not necessarily direct. But it's important, I think, maybe to develop these bases it's describing here, these bases of sympathy, the charity, kind speech, doing good, and treating all alike, because it develops this concept that I was speaking of right there, of unity, of oneness, of kind of interconnectedness, the human intranet, right? So it's a kind of a religious description of that, I think. Let's go to the next page. What is this page? This page is not numbered. So it would be, I guess it'd be 287 if 286 was right before it. Let's hope. And it goes, and lovers of the home who hold faith in these 4 truths, dharma, firmness, gift. Wait, hold on. Let me start that one more time. And lovers of the home who hold in faith these 4, truth, dharma, firmness, gift, hence gone shall grieve no more. Again, it goes, and lovers of the home who hold in faith these 4, truth, dharma, firmness, and gift, hence gone shall grieve no more. So that's a hard one, just like from a language perspective, from a kind of a vocabulary perspective, it's hard to pull apart. But again, I think we can kind of, there's 4 here, right? What is this? What for? And then this says faith, these 4 here on both pages. The first page says charity, kind speech, doing good, and treating all alike. And the second page says truth, dharma, firmness, and gift. And so I wonder if these are speaking of similar qualities, right? Just in different ways. But these are all necessary qualities for one to kind of be able to express oneself fully and truthfully. There's a lot of copycatting that goes on in the world, my apologies for those of you that don't know. This book is The Sayings of the Buddha, Reflections for Every Day by William Wray. So that'll be in the show notes if you want to look that up. But there's a lot of people that kind of try to imitate, especially in the modern world. There's this imitation game that goes on. I see it a lot on social media and kind of just in television and everywhere. Everybody wants to look the same. Everybody kind of dresses the same. Everybody says the same things. Everybody eats the same foods. Chipotle is a good example of that. Everybody likes to go eat at Chipotle. These kind of things, these trends, the trends themselves. It's a herd mentality. That's the way that Nietzsche would describe it. But it's a certain way that people are predictable, and not that it's bad inherently if you just like to eat Chipotle, right? Or maybe if you fall into these certain trends, parts of these trends, there's nothing wrong with that. But where people fall into trouble, and we can all fall into trouble, is when we align totally or completely with what we would call the social archetype of the righteous or right person, right? If you try to make yourself into this idea of what society thinks is a good person, you're always going to fall short, and you'll kind of sell yourself short. You'll kill your own individual creativity, right? Which is it's a sin against yourself. It's a sin in the truest sense. It's something you don't want to do because you'll experience a deep type of pain that's hard to understand and harder to heal. So there's a necessity for us to cultivate our individual creativity. And these kind of truths are the ways that we can that lead us there, right? I don't know why specifically, but there's a necessity for truth in this process for when you're talking about creativity and uncovering yourself. There has never been an artist that's been, that's done anything original, any original artist that hasn't had to be like kind of almost in a harsh, radically truthful in the way that they express themselves. And oftentimes these artists were kind of not appreciated in their time fully because of the way that they're radical. Certain people come to mind like, Leonardo da Vinci specifically, even though he was a very gifted artist. I think there was a couple different things that kept him from being really fully recognized when he was alive. One of them being, I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, homosexual or believed to be homosexual. There was a couple other things that there was... that came out about Leonardo da Vinci. He had a lot of, obviously radical ideas. He had all these inventions. So I think he was accused of witchcraft at other times and alchemy and things like that. So a lot of people are misunderstood in their time, especially the ones that speak radical truth, but then we look back hundreds of years in the future and we see there's this obviousness to them and this weird way in which we kind of look at everybody else that ignored them as like absolute and complete idiots. You know what I mean? And so there's like a necessity for us to be open-minded, to be truthful, to be honest with ourselves, so that we don't end up in that kind of we don't fall prey to that. We don't end up being one of the what's the word, ignorant ones, one of the herd. Unfortunately, the way that I think you can test yourself against that is by kind of seeing how closely you align with the social archetype. If you had to like write it down, like sit down and write down like everything that you think would be perfect in this, society would objectively say was perfect, which is not, there's not really an objective thing that everybody thinks, but you get the point. Like, do your best and then see how closely you align to that, or how badly you want to be that. I don't know how constructive it should be. Be careful with this exercise, guys, because you should always have self-love. Don't compare yourself to anything else. But I'm saying if you're trying to understand the concept more, this is something like an exercise you could practice, right? Is like trying to see like kind of how much you try to become that archetype. Because there is going to be always overlaps. There's going to be things that you enjoy that society enjoys as well, then society raises up and is popular. But there's also going to be things that you don't necessarily enjoy, but that because society enjoys it, you're going to tell yourself you do. And it can get very, very, very hard to tell the difference, especially over a long period of time, right? So there's a social influence that also kills creativity, That's why there's like certain people I guess the best example that I would know of, and I'm not super familiar with the fashion industry, but from what I understand, Rihanna's really influential in the fashion industry, right? And so it'd be something like, what makes Rihanna different than everybody else in terms of fashion, right? What makes her forward thinking, and what makes people look to her in terms of setting the trend in pop fashion, right? So like there's this in pop culture period, right? So there's this very unique individuality that Rihanna, for example, possesses, that people see and want to embody and copy. But nobody does it like Rihanna does it, right? Nobody can be Rihanna like Rihanna, like literally. And so there's this weird game in which everybody has their own version of Rihanna. Everybody. I think it's funny that I used Rihanna as an example. People are probably thinking like, "Are you trying to be Rihanna, dude?" Sure, why not? I mean, she's got the life, right? No, but I do. Like, I do respect these individuals, these people that are hyper creative, because they've made it there because of this. Far too often, people in the world become haters because they get bitter at their lot in life, and they look at celebrities. I've done this. I'm guilty of this myself. I'm not trying to call anybody individually out. I can take myself, for example. I oftentimes would get bitter at certain celebrities. Not necessarily bitter, but there's this weird jealousy, like quiet jealousy when you'd watch a movie or something like that, like where you resonate with somebody really deeply and you have this, at first, like, wow, I really like this character, I really like this actor, but then you also get this weird way in which you're like, oh, wow, I wish I'm a lot like that. Like, why aren't I acting? Like, why aren't I doing this? Like, why aren't I, whatever your version of it is. Doesn't have to be acting, but it could be like, maybe you're a public speaker, maybe you're a really good fisher, like, a fisherman, maybe you're a fantastic basketball player, like, whatever your version of it is, right? Musician is usually what my version of it is. And so I think there's an importance to listen to that voice when you're experiencing it. It's really important because it's something inside of you calling out, like that those insecurities or things inside of you telling you, leading you, towards your truth. It's like people often ask when they're lost or when they feel frustrated, where they can't find joy in things, what do I enjoy? And it's like, well, the tricky part of it is figuring out what you enjoy if you've lost it for long enough requires you going down kind of a path of insecurity internally to finding it again. So what I mean by that is, like, look in the people in the world that make you insecure, look at what they're doing, and then ask yourself why that makes you insecure. Right? What you'll find is there's something inside of you. It's related to your inner child. It's going to be the shadow aspect of you. Probably at that point, if you're feeling this way, you're jealous and, these kind of ways, or negative, low vibrating, whatever it is, towards another individual. Like, there's going to be some aspect of your shadow there that's being triggered, and it's usually related to some part of your inner child that is, very, very upset. And so when you see somebody that's jealous, when you see that very, really, really specific look on people's face, I don't know exactly how to do it for you, but it's like they'll pinch their face up. And then they'll kind of glare. I'm looking at the camera. I'm trying to see if I'm doing it right. They'll kind of glare at people, something like that. And there's this weird way. It's called, people, in many cultures they call it the evil eye. I mean, this is a good example of what the evil eye looks like in people. But it's when people are in a low vibration and they're kind of looking at somebody else and wishing that they could switch places, or there's certain characteristics they could take from that person or whatever it is. And it's a really, really, really negative place to find yourself, because it can produce a lot of much more negative emotions. If you'd like to kind of see how these negative passions, or these negative sins, you could call it, if you want to follow in the Western tradition, how they interrelate, you can go back in the podcast and look up the 7 Deadly Sins episodes. I believe you just have to scroll through the episodes and find the ones where they start to list off the 7 Deadly Sins. There's gluttony, wrath, lust. You can go through all 7 of them, right? Listen to those, because those ones, you'll see that there's this weird way in which, like, lust and envy interrelate and end up leading towards pride, if I remember right. With pride kind of being, if I remember right, the worst one, because it kind of leads you to do all of the other ones, or like pride being the start of it, Anyway, you'll find it if you're interested enough. The point being is that we have to go in this internal journey of looking at our shadow and looking for the things that make us very uncomfortable, in order to kind of find the parts of ourselves that are hyper creative, and the places that we've lost joy, if we want to find joy again. And it's really an unpleasant message at first, but it is the truth, because, like, as you start to go through these things, as you start to go through these old memories, these traumas, or whatever they may be, you'll find that there's this part of you that wants to express that feeling that you've had pent up, whatever it relates to, whatever your version of it is. And that feeling of wanting to express yourself, that fire, that passion that you feel in those moments when you're down, is exactly what you need. It relates to the episode, a couple of days ago, about grace, right? It's in those moments, when you're really down and you're really out, when you're ready and open to receiving, if you're perceiving it right, if you're approaching the situation right, that's when you have the opportunity to receive blessing, like true blessing in your life, where you really feel it. If you want proof that there's something bigger than yourself, when you're in a pit, you'll get your proof if you're looking for it. But there is a big caveat to that. You don't get something that you can't see, or you're not expecting, or you don't believe is real. It relates to what Salvador Dali was talking about here. Look at what is a television apparatus to man, who has only to shut his eyes to see the most inaccessible regions of the seen and the never seen, who has only to imagine in order to pierce through walls and cause all the planetary Baghdads of his dreams to rise from the dust. Anything that you dream about anything you see in your head, it is real, right? This is true. You just have to look into your own experience kind of, and you have to look at it a different way, right? Like what, you are, let's let it rest there for a second. I'm going to pull a card because I think I'm getting into it too quickly. We're already 26 minutes in here, right, guys? But I believe that there's this necessity for that internal search, right? And so let's pull a couple cards. I'm going to do more of a traditional kind of what I would do for myself for you guys here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle the deck. I have a traditional Rider-Waite deck here. And I'm going to use this, and then I'm going to pull a Angels and Oracle, Angels and Ancestors Oracle deck or card as well. So there's going to be a little more tarot in today's episode because it's the first video episode, and I feel like it's a good one to be able to do that in. So what I'm going to do though is I'm going to do a spread of 4 different cards. The first card is going to represent your energy, the person that's listening to this right now, the general collective obviously, but you as the person listening to this right now. It's going to represent your energy, whatever energy you're in right now. The second card I pull is going to represent the situation that you're in, right? What the energy of the situation you're in. The third card is going to represent kind of the way I like to look at it is like the energy to overcome, or the energy. It could also be the energy that's helping you, but usually I like to look at it as like the energy to overcome the obstacle in your way in that day, in that period of time, whatever we're reading for you, right? So, and then the last card is usually an advice card. So it would be any additional advice that you may need to kind of achieving the highest outcome, to being in the best energy, the most receptive energy, to being aligned with yourself fully, right? So that's the whole purpose of this. So let's give it a shot. Let's see how it works. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the first card. I'll do them all individually. I'm shuffling right now for those of you that can't see. I just kind of shuffle intuitively until I feel like it's good to go. But I promise you, I'm not doing anything tricky back here. No sleeves, right? Look at that. So, all right, let's give it a shot. I think that's good. I'm just going to cut the deck. This is you. All right, so we have the 4 of Pentacles, and I'm going to go ahead and read this from the book here real quick. And we can also do some, because you guys have the computer here, we can look it up online, we can read online, we can do we have a lot of resources, right? So the 4 of Pentacles here, you can see in the picture, this is a traditional tarot deck, guys. This is the Rider-Waite, so this is going to be, this is what most people learn on. But you see 4 pentacles, this person here holding 4 pentacles. The pentacles usually refers to kind of like the physical world or your physical world. It can refer to your finances, obviously with the coin look to the pentacles, your material wealth, your well-being, your financial well-being, those kind of things. So, and then you see in the picture this gentleman sitting on what appears to be kind of like a throne, but it's not really big enough to be a throne, it's just like a ledge. It looks like a side of a building or something, and he's clutching one of the pentacles, one pentacle sitting on his head, and he has both feet on the other pentacles. So if I was just to read this visually, going off of it visually, it would say that you right now are kind of feeling maybe that you've put in a little work, you've been working diligently for a little while maybe, and you are financially feeling not stable necessarily, but you're feeling actually kind of the opposite, like you need to hold on to something, right? Maybe your career isn't necessarily exactly where you want it, and you feel maybe a little threatened in it, or maybe that maybe finances aren't exactly where you want them to be right now, and you need to put a little bit more focus on that, but you're feeling a little bit of fear, a little afraid, right? That's the energy that I'm getting initially off of this card here, guys. So let's see what the book says. You have a couple different colors here too. Purple and red may be significant. So it looks like the purple is kind of overwhelming the red, covering up the red. So red usually represents like passion and things like that, right? So creativity, sexuality it can represent as well. So and the purple usually represents, from what I understand, like divinity. That's usually how I or royalty. That's usually how I view it. And I believe it represents the crown or third eye chakra. I'd have to double check here. Let's look to see what that represents here. The chakras, images. So the purple is the third eye chakra, and it represents psychic abilities and imagination, right? It's that third eye that's on the picture of the show, in the show here. So here, let me show you guys what I got here. Sorry. But you can see here that the third eye is represented by purple, and that the root chakra is represented by red, and the sacral chakra by orange. So this root chakra right here would be represented by instinct, survival, and a sense of security. It's the things that ground you, right? The sacral chakra represents emotion, energy, and creativity. So what I would say is that this your sense of you may be a little bit ungrounded right now, that your sense of security may be threatened a little bit, obviously, because you're holding on to that pentacle. So it's something surrounding that you're feeling like you might need to be a little bit more frugal, maybe in the future. Let's pull one more card here. Let's see what your situation has for us. Oh, interesting. So we've had this card before, guys. Oh, okay. All right. So I'm getting a little bit of getting something here, guys. So I got our second and our third card here as well. We're going to wait for the last card, for the advice card. So we have two of our cards here. We have our, for your situation card, let's see, we have a Four of Cups for you. And we've had this card before. These are really pretty cards for those of you that are watching. I really recommend that you, like I said, download the Spotify app and watch the video version, because you can see a lot of detail in these cards. There's a lot of color in the Rider-Waite deck that I'm using today. And in the deck that I've used before, we've gotten Four of Cups, the Angel deck. And what it represents usually is somebody that's not really seeing something that's being offered to them. It usually represents a situation in which there's a lot to be grateful for, usually emotionally. Cups represents the emotions or your emotional world. So you can see in this card, there's this cloud, right? That's offering or reaching out a cup to this gentleman that's sitting under a tree, and he's staring at three other cups, but not looking at the fourth one, right? Not representing, and he looks upset looking at the three cups. Like, I only have three cups. I should have more cups. I should have way closer to 10 cups, but I only have three. And he actually has 4 cups, but he's only recognizing 3 of them. That's the point, right? So this is your situation. You're in a situation where you may be feeling like you're, emotionally just, it's not doing it for you. Whatever situation you're in, you're not feeling fulfilled. You're not feeling like this is going to be, it's not everything that you expected, or you're not where you thought you should be at this point. And there's a sense of missing something, though. Like you're not appreciating something that you do have right now. And the cloud represents like air, right? And that usually represents thoughts. So I would or your mind. So it feels like it might be related to something that's going on in your mental world. It might be related to this, right? If we put both of these together, if you right now are in a Four of Pentacles energy, and then your situation is the Four of Cups. There's 2 4s here. That's important. 44, right? We'll have to look that up, see what that means. But 4 usually represents something like stability. I believe the home. If you flip a 4 upside down, it looks like a chair, right? So it's something like that, being stable on solid ground. And 44 adds up to 8. So that would represent something like the infinite or the divine. And I see that there's this cloud here, and I see that almost as the infinite or the divine, or something trying to connect to your head or your crown chakra. So there's something you're not perceiving right now. That's a gift. It could be an idea. It could be something that you've worked on. And I believe, if we're going off of the subject of the podcast today, it's probably something related to creativity. If you're listening to this right now, you've probably already thought of what it is. maybe you work a lot or something like that, and you just don't have the time to devote to whatever your idea is. Maybe it's a YouTube channel, maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's art, maybe it's music, maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's a new job, maybe it's spending more time with your kids, maybe I don't know, maybe it's finally writing that book that you've put off for a long time. Whatever it is, it'll pop in your head when you see these cards. Situation right now that you're presented with is the Four of Cups. There's something here that could make you feel a little bit more emotionally fulfilled if you just kind of look up and recognize it. Or maybe if you take a second and ground yourself, because again, there's this, look at, in both cards, there's red being covered up by another color clothing, right? So I believe like there's other chakras that are out of balance for you. If we're going off of this, it looks like that's kind of a green color in this one, and this is kind of a purple. So we'll go to our chakra chart here and see what we got. So green would be your heart chakra, right? And purple would be your third eye. So I'm thinking what's happening is maybe you're going through something that is affecting your heart chakra that's making you feel a little emotionally down, and making you feel like you have to hold on to your physical world, hold on to what you have physically, because it makes you feel like you have a little more security than you are feeling right now, right? If your root chakra is affected, then you're going to feel unstable, and both of these images depict someone that is feeling unstable. Both they're sitting down; they don't feel like they can stand up in both pictures as well, right? So. That being said, there might be something, kind of the pentacles and the cups are both gold, right? They're both yellow, and the solar plexus is like a golden yellow. That represents power, control, and freedom to be yourself. So when we talk about creativity and self-expression, we're going to be talking about, I think, kind of using this solar plexus energy and this sacral chakra energy, maybe to kind of move some of these energies around for you. What does that mean? Well, it means you need to express yourself. We need to figure out together what it is that you can do to feel heard, to feel excited, to feel joy, to feel passion, to feel whatever it is, and it kind of can feel like a daunting task at times, but there is something there. Again, we kind of already got into it earlier about how to get there. You just have to focus on the insecurities, oddly enough. It'll lead you there. And it's kind of an unfortunate truth, right? So here, let's go to the third card. The third card we have today is the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords. Look at this card. Right? Boom, boom, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's hard to focus a little bit, guys. Here we go. So the Nine of Swords, on this card we have, it looks like a gentleman that's been laying down in bed, looks like he's woken up in the middle of the night and appears from maybe a nightmare, or the person looks upset on the card. And there's 9 swords kind of crossing behind them above their head. And so that, to me, again, it represents a couple of things. We talked about the cloud, and that maybe there's something, with your third eye represents, it can represent in some ways the dream world, or your ability to see into the dream world, or astral travel, or psychic perception, things like this. So if you have the swords going through your head in this card, it would represent that there's some kind of event, there's something mentally that's really putting you in anguish, and it's causing you maybe some sleepless nights. Maybe you're not getting the sleep that you need. Maybe that's what's making you feel some of this emotional lack inside that could be affecting your ability to feel stable, right? So I see this card as, and if this is your hurdle, then this is definitely what we want to focus on to get back in alignment, right? Getting back in alignment would mean, looking at the dream, not running from it, right? So if you're having nightmares, if you're having any kind of anxiety, even if it's not specifically a nightmare, if you're finding yourself laying in bed at night and before you go to bed, you're having a hard time falling asleep, or if you ever experience this, one of the ways you can get that to go away is to not try to avoid whatever you're afraid of, to just kind of sit with it and look at it and see what happens, when you allow yourself to be in it for a little bit. What you'll find is there's like a pathway that gets illuminated, like all this. It's almost like if you could imagine just being in the dark, and then all of a sudden, like, one torch gets lit and you can see a pathway to follow. You follow each pathway, and it's a little scary because there's not a lot of light, but the further you get, the more you recognize you're going somewhere, and it's not as hard, you know? It's like it's not as scary then when you look at the dragon, right? At least you know where it is now, you know, you don't have to wonder. You know, there's this weird amount of fear that goes away when you confront your fears. So let's go for our final card, the advice card. The advice card. Ace of Wands. Nice. Look at that. Pretty card, right? So the wands, we've gone over this before too, right? The wands can represent the passions, right? It can represent the things that you're passionate about, the things that make you magic. You know, it can represent in many ways your speech, your communication, right? It's the thing that casts your intention into the world. So the Ace of Wands, you can see this. It's coming out of a cloud. It's being handed. It's a big old wand, one of them, being handed out from, it looks like the air, out of a cloud. And it's being presented kind of in the sky above a castle and kind of this beautiful setting. And what the Ace of Wands would represent in this case is kind of being delivered, kind of a new opportunity to be passionate, right? To manifest something in the world. Or kind of driving you or inspiring you to take action to manifest something in the world. You know, what is it that you think about when I bring up, you know, the joy and satisfaction and laughter and these kind of things? What comes into your mind? Or if nothing is inspired, then it's better to follow the insecurity. What makes you insecure? What are you afraid of doing? What's been your dream that you've never told anybody? You might find it that way. You know, it just depends on how you hit it from yourself. But there's something that you need to take action on to get some of this energy moving as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to go do something overnight, but there's an opportunity that's represented in the Ace of Wands, something divine, something being handed by the divine to you here. Right, here's an idea. Here's a opportunity to manifest something that you really would enjoy. Right, so that's how I would read these cards just intuitively. And if you're going through, it sounds like you may be going through, or whoever's listening to this right now, might be kind of going through something. And if you are, I'm there with you. You know, I've been going through a lot too, and I've been having a lot of sleepless nights. You know, like I've had a lot of nightmares and a lot of bad dreams and things that I've had to confront. And I've literally woken up multiple different times and just had this heavy feeling, like I couldn't, like a weight sitting on me, like literally like somebody was sitting on me. And you know, I've been really isolated, so I felt really alone. And in these moments, I would sit there and talk, you know, to my guides and my angels, and I'd ask them, I'd be like, you know, what do I do? And usually what I would get back is like, just let it rip, man. Cry. Like that heavy feeling is sadness, it's sorrow, it's pain. Like, let it out. Feel it. Don't run away from it. Don't pretend like you're weird for feeling this way. You know what I mean? You're a human being. You feel this way. You're supposed to feel it. It's no mystery. It's not that complicated, right? There is something that you're feeling that way about for sure, right? Nine of Swords. Don't run away from it. You know, don't be scared of the things that make you scared. It's the only thing to fear is fear itself, right? Because it's going to hide your creativity. It's going to hide an opportunity from you. You know, if you focus too much on the things that have been tormenting you, you know, it's already done. It's already in the past. There's new opportunities here to take advantage of. So focus on those, you know, focus on what's in front of you, not what's behind you. It's a lot brighter there. You know, you might feel a little beat up, like you've put a lot of effort into manifesting things into the world. You know, you have the Nine of Wands on the bottom and a couple of nines too. So you have a couple of repeating numbers here. We have 4 Pentacles, 4 of Cups, and 9 of Swords, and 9 of Wands on the bottom of the deck. So I'm going to see what that number is. Let's see, 44.99. I'm just interested. 44.99. Bear with me, folks. Sometimes some of these angel number things can be hard to read. They're like in different languages, and it doesn't really make sense. So I don't know exactly what it would mean, but for the 9s represent kind of coming to an endings, or coming to an end, or approaching an end. But in general, there's a lot of energy around you right now, like a lot of an angelic energy that's trying. There's things that want to help you, So don't ignore them, right? Listen. So that's what I have for the tarot today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I think I'm gonna just stick with that for today because the oracle cards, I don't want to go too far into it. We can maybe we can pull one or something. Oh, knocking stuff over. Hey. Let's pull an oracle card too. Feeling the tarot today. Got my shaman stones here. These are really dope. They come from the Grand Canyon. They're, if you can see these are little stones that get polished, I believe, in the Colorado River. If they're from the Grand Canyon, that'd probably be a good bet. But when you hold on to them, there's really, really interesting energy. There's a male and a female version that they always come in a set. You can kind of see the difference, and you somewhat intuitively pick which one goes in what hand, but you hold them in each hand, and you can really feel, like I feel connected. I can channel readily when I have them in my hand, you know what I mean? So I get the shaman stone naming, at least. Anyway, let's pull a Angel Ancestors and Oracles card. Ooh. We have Shift Your Perception. It's the Air Guardian. Let's look at that one. This is like a depiction of a woman. She looks like she's in the air, so she has wings. She looks like an angel, basically. Kind of almost like she has a headdress on. Looks almost Indian, like Indian headdress. It's green, maybe jade crystals in it, and she has wings, black wings, and long black hair. And she's looking at you fairly seriously. She doesn't have a kind of a stoic look on her face, but she says, "Shine." She says, "Shift your perception." So let's see what that says in the book. Shift your perception. This might be helpful here. We'll see. Hopefully, hang in there for me, folks. Sometimes it takes a second to find these in the book, and that's kind of frustrating. Getting close. There it is. Air Guardian. It's on page 92. And it says, change the way you think, and you will change your whole reality. Okay. My computer's liking to make a bunch of noise right now, too. I do see that. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do something here. Give me a second, guys. Something wants to say... Oh, it's 443. Okay, that's why. I was trying to figure out why is my computer being so goofy right now, and it's because there's an angel number. Something's trying to come through right now. 443, guys, is an angel number right now. Let's look that up, because there's something really wanting to... Oh, my goodness. Sorry, guys. Let me get this to go away. It's wanting to... There we go. All right, we should be good now, hopefully. Sorry, a little bit of technical difficulties. I have to have some at least every episode, don't we? 443 was the angel number that came through there, guys. So if you want to look it up on your own, you can do that as well. But I will look this one up as well. What do we got here? It says, angel number 443 asks that you acknowledge the determination, patience, discipline, and hard work you have put into your endeavors in the past, and know that they will have long-term benefits and rewards for yourself and your loved ones. I don't know why I said that so weird. Take heart that your will and efforts have been well worth your while, and your angels encourage you to keep up the great work you have been doing. It's a message from your angels that the creativity and joy you have injected into your work and daily life have brought about positive energies, making things go smoothly for you in your life. So this is a message of upliftment and encouragement. And I think if we focus on kind of the cards that we had today, there was, you feeling maybe like that 9 of Wands energy, like maybe you feeling a little beat up and you've put in a lot and you've put in a lot of effort and you're not really seeing you're kind of maybe feeling like you have to put in a lot of effort to protect what you've created, and you're not getting a return back from it like you should, or something like that. And the angels are telling you, like, keep up the good work. You're doing just fine. Like, don't get down just because the message may feel a little negative or may feel like you are in a negative spot. Like, that doesn't, like I said, like yesterday or the previous episode, if you're feeling that, go back and listen to the previous one. Like, you're exactly where you're supposed to be, right? Air Guardian. He says the Air Guardian card represents the angels of the air element. Traditionally, air is all about thoughts, thinking, and everything that's happening in the mind. So these angels can help you to overcome any thoughts that have come back to haunt you from the past and to see the world more clearly. So haunt you, right? So there's definitely something going on in the dreams, guys. You're having a lot of recurring themes. Maybe you're thinking about a certain situation, or something's coming up from the past. There's something that's really taxing you mentally at night, and you need to focus on it. Change your perspective. I have a feeling that it's something around not wanting to look at the truth of whatever the situation is. They're guiding you to change the way you think about certain situations, right? There you go. As this could be standing between you and greatness. The extended message is, and greatness in this context would be your creativity. When this card arises, it's an opportunity to learn about your way of thinking. You're being guided to recognize that not all you see is exactly the way you see it. Sometimes the mind can play games, and sometimes our perceptions can be wrong. I've learned that the hard way. I'm sure many of you have as well. If you are being challenged or feel that there's a lack of clarity and direction in your life at the moment, there's a good chance the way you're thinking or what you're focusing on has a lot to do with that reality. Remember, your mind is very powerful, right? And what you focus your attention on and what you speak about is it's your wand. And you manifest that way. So be careful when you're in these pits not to go and attack other people or yourself or the world, because what you'll cause, like I said last episode, is a spiral that'll just make it much worse, and that pit goes deeper. It always goes deeper, until you stand up. It's a bottomless pit until you stand up. You're being guided to open your eyes and your mind. Go beyond any limits you have set for yourself and recognize that the way you see the world is how you will experience the world. Yes. Excuse me. Sorry, my nose is a little itchy, guys. You don't have to feel alone wherever you're at. If obviously you're feeling down, don't feel bad because you feel down. Gosh, it's like that morality message I was talking about. We do so much more harm to ourselves just by judging each other. By applying morality outwardly, then any kind of harm, I think, is that we do more harm than good. We don't save anybody by doing that. So be gentle with yourself. Opportunities are moving in your direction, but they will only open up for you if you are ready to do the internal work to support them. The internal work is that shadow work. Looking at your inner child, following the insecurities, following the rabbit down the rabbit hole. It can be scary, but it's a wonderland. Alice goes, it's a wonderland, right? It's also about dreaming. So there's a lot of synchronicity around dreaming and following, your intuition. 448, a lot of synchronicities right now. So that's what I got for the tarot today, guys. The Air Guardian. I also get this message: just believe in yourself. Just believe in yourself. You may say, like, oh, that sounds easy. Just believe in yourself. Well, some of the simplest concepts are the hardest ones to implement, right? It's the truth. I believe in you. Truly, you can do it. Sometimes all you need is just one other person in this world that believes that what you believe in can become a reality. And I know it can. It's more a matter of you making it happen than anybody outside of you. You just got to recognize that. So, that being said, creativity, right, guys? Why is it so important? Let me take a drink here. I have some, throwing my shaman stones around too. I have this might be a synchronicity. Anybody likes poo? Anybody like poo? I'm drinking out of a mug. It's weird. Everything's flipped when you hang in the camera. Poo looks mad. Whoa, look at that. Poo looks very angry. He looks upset somebody's taken his honey pot. What the hell? Okay, I'm drinking some chai tea. It's good. It clears the throat, right? So, I haven't always been into chai tea, but for some reason it's doing it for me right now. All right. Gotta have my shaman stone. Oh, and the camera tried to find me. Okay. Yes, guys, creativity. So there's a lot of different ways you can express yourself. And oftentimes people will act, if you ask them, if they're creative, they'll say, no, I'm not creative. But it's almost never true. It's so surprising when you take somebody, like for instance, to karaoke is a good example of this. You can find many times that you go to karaoke, there's a lot of people that have extremely good voices. Good voices are much more common than people like to recognize. People are just very self-conscious. Singing is also it's a talent, but it's also a skill. So you can learn those things and you can become a better singer. There's things like that. There's art in general is that way. People can be talented, but just like sports, you can get better at creative expression. And the best thing about art itself is there is no right and wrong. There is no objective better. You can have a LeBron James in basketball, and you can have kind of, whatever the opposite of that would be. I'm not necessarily a basketball guy, right? But in art, it's different. You don't compare Salvador Dali to Picasso in that way. They're them. Same way you could say, who's the better artist, Metallica or the Eagles, right? And it's like, well, fuck. It's a hard one. It depends on your taste, I guess, right? The best is an objective thing that doesn't necessarily, or a subjective thing that doesn't necessarily really ever have an objective side to it. So, that being said, there's a safety in your expression that you can realize if you're feeling nervous about how to express yourself or whether you should. Whatever your idea of creativity is true. You don't have to pretend like there's you don't have to hide it from yourself. You don't have to pretend like everybody else is better at it than you, and then sit down and watch TV or watch a movie and see the thing that you're meant to do on the screen while you feel this itching inside. It's like that's everybody has their own version of that, and that's the feeling you follow. Start to write, start to journal. My version of it is music, guys, and this, right? My original version of it was this. Just making a podcast and talking to myself. And that's one way I like to express myself, right? But another way I like to express myself is through music. And so that's one of the ways I'd kind of like to show you right now. If I can find the music here, I think it'll be kind of interesting to show you. So I've worked on this project for a while now, and it's just, I've always played music since I was a kid, but it was one of the things that, and I've always been, really talented. Naturally, it's one of the things I was talented at. I always picked up instruments and things very easily. I was in a band when I was younger. We played some talent shows and dances and things like that. So I had this affinity for music from a very young age. But as I got older, I realized that I wasn't something that I could. It was very daunting trying to figure out how I could make money, how I could, have the other things I definitely wanted, like a family, and stability and these kind of things. If I was going to be a musician, a starving artist, and so I made a choice, and I turned away from it. And I ran away from it for about 10 years, or over 10 years. And around that time, I experienced so much negativity in my life. I got so down on myself. I got suicidal at times. I lost my mind. It's serious, guys. Not expressing yourself. Creativity is a very serious thing. It can cause this kind of pain inside of you that can really be life-threatening. So these messages are important, there's a way in which we've devalued art and made it a weak thing, it made it, because it's, more of a representation of the divine feminine, that kind of expression, we've turned it into this weak thing, but there's nothing weak about the divine feminine or femininity in general. Nothing weak about that. There's a strength that you can see in vulnerability that is very hard to imitate any other way. There's a strength that you can see in creativity and passion and self-expression that you can't, imitate in any other way. And that's what's necessary here. So let me see what I can do here and see if I can maybe find this, because we're about to end the show. I want to play this kind of at the end here for you guys and see if you enjoy it. So I've worked on a bunch of different things, right? I play the piano, I play the guitar, I play the saxophone, I sing, play little drums, and I do some digital music, and that's kind of what I've been messing around with and trying to create my own stuff. I'm eventually going to do my own background music. The stuff that you hear right now, I want to do all of my own stuff. Right now, just a shout out, Kevin MacLeod is the person that produces all of the music in the background. It's all Creative Commons licensing, so he produces this all for free. And all of his information is in the show notes every episode. So if you want to know anything about any of the songs, they're all in order. Please go and visit him. He does everything on a donation basis. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without him, and I've never shouted him out. So I really appreciate Kevin MacLeod. Go to incompetech.com. Check out his stuff. Really good stuff for any of your creative endeavors. And like I said, support him when you can, because this artistic community we need to stick together, right? So here, let me look at see if I can find my song here. I'm going to open it, but I believe I titled it Love. So this is a song that's based on a chord progression. It's very simple, that I've been using and playing since I was about 12. And I was when I was about 12 or 13, I took some piano lessons, and when I was doing that, I realized that I really, I'd like to jam. I like to just sit there and play. And as I started to do that more, I started to come up with my own, chord progressions, my own songs. And I wrote this one song that I don't know if I'll play today, but I'll play in one of the episodes for you guys. That's fairly simple, but it's been kind of the first song I ever wrote. And ever since then, I've kind of liked to do that, like to write music. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to get into creatively, producing music along with this, So I'm doing this to kind of demonstrate or show you guys some of the things that aren't polished of mine, that aren't necessarily finished products, but are just, in the stage of me developing that expression. Why? Because it's important to show that vulnerability. It's important to recognize it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to not have something perfect and to show it to somebody. You know what I mean? It's okay to express yourself in whatever way you feel is necessary. Granted, as long as you're not harming anybody else or yourself. So, that being said, I think I just want to play this for you guys. Again, it's not a finished product, but it's something that I enjoyed making, and I think you guys might enjoy it as well. So let's see what we got here. Let me see if I can move it over. I don't know if this is the right one. Let me see. No, this is not the right one. Let me find. Hello guys, sorry, welcome back. We had a little technical difficulties there, but I'm going to get you the song here. I had to pause the podcast. There's going to be a little bit of a break there in between in the video. It'll look a little funky on the video, but it's okay. Anyway, the song didn't come out right because I had it in Ableton, the development software that I usually use. So it was at a different... Anyway, it wasn't, settings weren't right. So I had to download it as an MP3 and put it in the podcast here. But I'm going to end on that song. It's a couple minutes long. It repeats a little bit. And like I said, it's very rough, but I really hope you enjoy it. This is my version. This is my current creativity. This is my expression. So what's yours, guys? And I'm going to leave the podcast on that. Lots of love. Bye-bye.